She walked into the dealership wearing jeans and a simple white t-shirt, inquiring about a luxury car. The salesman looked her up and down with disdain. "I'm sorry, but I think you're in the wrong place," he sneered, gesturing toward the exit. "These vehicles start at $300,000. As other staff members snickered and customers stared, her face flushed with humiliation. She left without a word. The next morning, a gleaming Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up outside the dealership. When the back door opened, the salesman's jaw dropped. He never saw it coming. Valentine Prestige Motors shimmered like a crown under the noon sun, its glass walls a showcase for cars that screamed money. Ferraris with curves like art, Lamborghinis growling in red, a Bentley coupe so sleek it could cut glass. Inside, the air smelled of leather and polish, chandeliers casting light that danced off chrome rims. Julia Hayes stepped through the double doors, her dark hair stuffed under a faded blue ball cap, her white t-shirt speckled with coffee stains from a morning hauling canned goods at a food bank. Her jeans hung loose, frayed at the knees from crouching to stack boxes, her sneakers scuffed from pacing concrete floors. A canvas tote, edges worn, straps sagging, dangled from her shoulder. At 34, she carried a quiet strength, hazel eyes bright with intent, but she looked like she'd wandered in from nowhere special. She'd spent the last 2 years watching her sister Sarah fight cancer, chemo draining her color, surgeries stealing her breath, radiation burning her hope. Sarah pulled through, a warrior in remission, and Julia wanted to give her something big, something loud, a thank you that roared. The Eclipse XRS caught her eye online. Silver, limited edition, $300,000 worth of horsepower and heart. She'd saved for it, scrimped from her own paychecks, even called Ethan, her husband, to double-check the funds. "Get it," he'd said last week, voice soft over the line. "She's earned it." Julia figured it'd be easy. Walk in, sign the papers, drive it home to Sarah's grin. She didn't expect the dealership to spit in her face. Derek Vaughn clocked her the second she crossed the threshold. Sales manager, sharp suit, sharper smirk, he adjusted his silk blue tie and sized her up like she'd dragged mud across his pristine tiles. His gelled hair didn't budge, his polished shoes clicked as he strode over. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice thick with skepticism, loud enough for a guy polishing a Porsche to glance up. Julia shifted her tote, calm as ever. "Hi, I'm Julia Hayes. I'm here for the Eclipse XRS. She nodded at the silver beauty gleaming on a pedestal, roped off like a museum piece. Derek's smirk stretched wide. "That kind of car isn't meant for someone who wandered in from a thrift store," he said, his tone a blade, cutting loud for the room to hear. Julia blinked, keeping her cool. "I'd like to see it, please." Derek didn't move, just turned to an associate, Mitch, a wiry guy with a buzz cut and a cheap tie, and muttered, "Show her the used inventory, keep her away from the showroom display." Mitch grinned, "You got it, boss," and waved Julia toward a side door like she was a stray dog. "Over here, got some real steals out back." Customers perked up. A woman in stilettos flipping through a catalog. A guy in a blazer sipping espresso. A couple in designer coats, all staring. Someone pulled out a phone, recording, the red light blinking. Julia held her ground, voice steady. "I'm here for the Eclipse, not used cars." Derek sneered. "Ma'am, that car's for the elite. Someone like you doesn't belong here." It snowballed fast. Mitch snatched a stack of glossy brochures from the counter and flung them at her, the pages smacking her chest, fluttering to the floor like confetti. "Read up on what you can't touch," he laughed, while Derek clapped, "Nice, school her." The stiletto woman snickered. "She's a walking handout." Julia bent to pick them up, her hands steady despite the sting, their glee a spotlight she refused to shrink from. The crowd swelled. More phones out, more whispers. "What's she even doing here?" "Get her out!" A teenage kid in a hoodie zoomed in, giggling. "This is TikTok gold." Derek doubled down. He grabbed a water bottle from a display table, a fancy glass one with the dealership logo, and splashed it across her shirt, the cold soaking her, dripping onto her jeans, pooling at her feet. "Cool off and hit the road," he barked as Mitch hooted. "Wet trash fits her perfect." The blazer guy chuckled. "She's a mess now, priceless." Derek didn't stop there. He grabbed a marker from the desk and scrawled "broke" across her wet shirt, the black ink bleeding into the fabric as he cackled. "Now everyone knows what you are." Mitch howled. "Art project, nailed it," while the stiletto woman clapped. "She's a billboard for losers." The crowd roared, phones zooming in, and Julia stood there, ink smudging with water, her cap drooping, but she didn't flinch, just let the marks sit, her calm a wall against their venom. Julia wiped her face, water mixing with the coffee stains, her cap slipping slightly, but she didn't snap, just stood there, calm, her silence louder than their venom. The stiletto woman snapped a photo. "This'll blow up. Pathetic." The staff piled on. A receptionist, Lisa, perched behind the desk in a tight blazer, leaned over and hissed, "You're clogging up the vibe. Leave already." She flicked a pen at Julia, the plastic clattering on the tiles. Lisa upped the ante. She snatched a cup of coffee from a customer's hand and dumped it over Julia's head, the hot liquid scalding her scalp as Lisa shrieked, "There, now you're awake! Scram!" Derek smirked. "Perfect. Give her a bath." While the hoodie kid laughed, "She's a walking spill." The coffee ran down her neck, staining her shirt brown, and Julia flinched from the heat, her tote slipping, but she didn't yell, just steadied herself, her silence a shield they couldn't pierce. Mitch jumped in, ripping her tote from her shoulder and dumping it. Pens, a notebook, a granola bar spilling out. "Let's see your cash," he jeered, kicking a pen under a display. Derek laughed. "Bet it's food stamps." The designer couple smirked, the guy tossing a dime at her feet. "Here's your deposit, sweetie." Julia knelt to gather her things, fingers steady, but Lisa called out, "Don't bother. Trash stays on the floor." Security sealed it. Kyle, a stocky guard with a buzz cut and a badge that gleamed, stomped over, hands flexing. "She's disrupting everything," Derek said, loud for the growing audience. "Claims she's buying the eclipse. Total scam," Mitch added, smirking. Kyle loomed. "Time to go, miss." Julia adjusted her wet shirt, voice even. "I just want to speak to a manager." Kyle grabbed her arm, yanking her toward the exit, his grip bruising. "Out, now!" he growled, dragging her, her sneakers squeaking on the wet tiles. Kyle didn't just drag her, he snatched her fallen cap and stomped it into the wet floor, grinding it under his boot as he growled, "You won't need this where you're going." Derek cheered, "Yeah, trash it," while the designer couple hooted, "She's done for." The cap flattened, coffee and water soaking in, and Julia reached for it, her fingers brushing the mess, but Kyle kicked it away, her quiet strength a flame they couldn't snuff. The crowd buzzed. "Look at her go!" "Toss her already!" Lisa leaned into the desk mic. "Attention, please. Cleanup in progress." Phones filmed, laughter echoed, and Julia braced herself, water dripping, her tote half empty, their hate a storm she weathered without a word. She made it to the doors, Kyle shoving her out, her cap falling to the pavement. Mitch took it further. He grabbed a janitor's mop from a corner and shoved it into Julia's hands as Kyle pulled her, yelling, "Clean your mess, you nobody!" Lisa cackled, "Yeah, earn your stay," while the blazer guy tossed a nickel at her feet. "Here's your wage." The lobby erupted, a wave of jeers, and Julia gripped the mop, water and coffee pooling around her. Her tote scattered, but she didn't break, just stood there, steady, their cruelty a storm she faced head-on. The sunlight hit her hard, her shirt clinging, eyes hardening. The humiliation burned, not for her pride, but for Sarah, for every person judged by their shell. She didn't cry, just picked up her cap, dusted it off, and pulled out her phone. "Hey," she said to Ethan, voice steady, "something happened." He answered fast, soft, but alert. "You okay? What's going on?" She told him, calm, no tears, about the water, the shove, the jeers. His tone sharpened. "Valentine Prestige?" She nodded into the phone. "Yeah." He paused, then asked, "Do you want them to learn something from this?" She didn't waver. "Yes." That night, their quiet loft buzzed with tension. Ethan Hayes sat across from her, dark hair mussed from running his hands through it, hazel eyes locked on hers. He'd built an AI empire from nothing, orphaned at 15, coding on a library computer, sleeping in a car to save rent. Now 38, he ran a billion-dollar tech firm, private as a shadow, his wealth a whisper behind his soft voice. Julia sat on their worn couch, still in her damp shirt, tote beside her. "They didn't just say no," she said, voice low. "They made a show of it, phones out, everyone laughing." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he stayed calm. "You could have called me right there." She shook her head. "I didn't want a scene. I wanted Sarah's car." He leaned forward. "And now?" She met his gaze. Now I want them to see. Next morning, chaos erupted. A silver Rolls-Royce Phantom Bespoke purred to a stop outside Valentine Prestige, custom paint shimmering, a $1.5 million beast that hushed the street. Ethan stepped out, charcoal suit crisp, eyes cold as steel. He'd just flown in from a Seattle conference. Keynote speaker, AI breakthroughs, the works. Once a kid with holes in his shoes, he'd turned code into gold, keeping his life low-key. Now he strode in. Julia's text burned into his mind. They threw me out. Derek didn't clock him, rushed over, all teeth and tie. Good morning, sir. Like to see the new Ferrari we just got in? Ethan's voice was ice. I'm here to collect the Eclipse XRS my wife picked out yesterday. You know, the woman in the white t-shirt you refused to help. Derek's face drained white. The showroom went dead quiet. Mitch froze, polishing rag dangling. Kyle stepped back, badge dull. Lisa's pen stopped mid-scribble. Ben, a junior salesman, lanky, barely 23, the only one who'd offered Julia a smile yesterday, stepped up. It's true, he said, voice shaky but clear. She asked for the Eclipse. They laughed her out, splashed her, dragged her. Murmurs rippled, customers gawked, staff shifted, phones already live streaming. Ethan moved closer, tone sharp as a razor. You mocked her. You shamed her. You threw her out while she was trying to buy a car for her sister and donate vehicles to shelters we support. Derek stammered, I didn't know. Ethan cut him off. You didn't care. The air crackled, eyes wide. Here's the twist. Julia wasn't just his wife. She was the executive director of the Sunrise Foundation, a charity that had funneled millions into Valentine Prestige for 3 years. Her grants, vans for shelters, trucks for clinics, cars for nonprofits, kept this place breathing. Derek's tie, Mitch's paycheck, Kyle's boots, Lisa's desk, all hers. They'd humiliated the woman who'd propped up their shiny little empire. Ethan's voice dropped lower, piercing. She's the soul here. Every sale you've bragged about, every light you've flipped on, comes from her work. Derek's slick suit felt like a prison as Ethan's words sank in, his marker-scrawling hands now trembling. He'd defaced the woman whose grants paid his bonuses, and now he'd sweat under her watch, his arrogance a shackle he'd forged. Mitch's buzz cut couldn't hide his panic, his mop thrusting a noose. He'd mocked the exec who'd bankrolled his desk, his smirk a fading echo. Kyle's badge meant nothing, his cap stomping a scar. He'd dragged the heart of their funding, and the crowd's cheers turned to hisses, their downfall a victory Julia's quiet grace delivered. Derek's knees wobbled, the water he'd splashed a noose around his neck. Mitch's smirk vanished, his brochure tossing a bitter echo. Kyle's hands shook, the tote he'd dumped her lifeline. Lisa paled, her pen flicking a ghost. The crowd's gasps turned to whispers. Phones buzzing, live streams exploding, footage going viral by the minute. Lisa's tight blazer hung loose as she faced Ethan's gaze, her coffee dumping a chain. She'd scalded the woman who'd kept her employed, her sneer a ghost now haunting her. The live streams lit up, millions watching their shame unfold. Derek's marker, Mitch's mop, Kyle's stomp, Lisa's spill all replayed, their cruelty a boomerang that smashed their pride. Julia stood by Ethan, wet shirt and all, her silence a hammer dropping, and the audience roared as their own hands buried them, her strength the judge they couldn't escape. Ethan turned to Paul Grayson, senior manager who'd stumbled out, tie askew, face flushed. I don't want firings, Ethan said, cool as stone. I want change. Starts today. Paul nodded fast. Anything, sir? Name it. Ethan leaned in. Sunrise needs volunteers. Derek, Mitch, Kyle, Lisa, you're on. And this place? Bias training now. Julia picks the team. Derek's jaw tightened. Mitch blinked hard. Kyle dipped his head. Lisa swallowed. They'd face her world, no dodging. An hour later, Derek stood at a kids' center, suit swapped for a Sunrise volunteer name tag, hauling chairs across a gym floor. Sweat soaked his collar, his gelled hair limp. Mitch carried tables, sleeves rolled, no laughter left. Kyle stacked boxes, badge gone, his grip gentle now. Lisa set up crafts, her tight blazer traded for a polo, hands trembling as she laid out crayons. Julia walked through in her staff shirt, simple, steady, cap back on. The kids don't care what you wear, she said, soft but firm, pausing by Derek. They care how you treat them. His eyes glistened. throat bobbing, no words, just a nod. She kept moving, her tote slung over her shoulder, her strength a quiet hum. 3 months later, Valentine Prestige felt different. Derek greeted a man in a ripped coat like royalty. Welcome, any car you want to see. He'd spent weeks with Sunrise kids, their smiles rewriting his playbook. Mitch quit sales, joined Sunrise full-time, hauling supplies, beat-tossing brochures. Kyle ran security training, respect first, always, his shove a memory he'd apologized for, face red to Julia's nod. Lisa manned the desk, offering coffee to a woman in sweats, her sneer long gone. The dealership lost VIPs, big shots bailed after the viral clip, but gained a name for decency. That live stream, billionaire husband exposes car dealer who insulted his wife, hit 18 million views in 3 days. One quiet afternoon, Julia leaned against the Eclipse XRS, now Sarah's, watching her sister rev the engine, grinning ear to ear. Derek handed over her tote, unasked. While Mitch adjusted the mirrors, Kyle held the door, Lisa waved from the desk. Julia's hazel eyes softened, coffee stains faded, her worth never up for debate. Sarah hugged her tight. You didn't have to. Julia smiled. Yeah, I did. The showroom hummed behind them, a little humbler, a little realer, all because she'd walked in. What would you do if you were Julia? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever been judged for how you look, tell us your story. True worth isn't in your wallet, it's in how you treat others. If this story hit you, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.